supposed to be a committee hearing March 12th and um, public hearing on the March 19th. It was on when it wasn't supposed to be on, and it ain't on when it wasn't on. It's just crazy. There's gonna be real limited where you put when you bite it. When you bite it, you can taste it. Is Daryl coming tonight? Daryl coming tonight?
How you doing?
Oh, okay. Okay. Doing the boat. Yeah. Yeah. It's still easy when you actually doing it. And having to keep rewinding. That's not that don't help. Because you can't get it back to the spot. I need to actually DVD. It's hard. Well, I did the best I could, but I had to keep. I mean, when you're on the thing, it don't work out to do. That's just for watching, not for keep reminding. In the packages, I don't think they put it in the packages. In the pods package, I mean, they got the council. Yeah, cause see, so if it's an issue, it's makes sense. I have to have it. Accept it. They moved to accept the minutes. And then, they do roll call and they say they moved to accept because you have to accept these right now. It's You all ain't having no dances.
We having our ministry Ozark.
Oh, at Brunswick.
We got a stripper coming Saturday. Sherry, I got to walk it to you. You have to walk it to you. When you see me walk, meet me halfway. No, you don't have to give it to me. Give it to her. But you need to. I don't want to. I don't want to deal with him.
Look at see, she wanna do it now.
This way, all right? When you see me, like, I'm finna show you halfway. You see right over there? Where that line is on that wall, right over there. Girl,
Y'all gonna have a what?
yeah, we having a girls' night Saturday at Ambridge. And she talking about we got strippers coming and all this and that and games and then food too, so all of that.
Good, good. You all not tapping into our conversation, though. Yes.
Sick. They're sick in Orlando. Down there in all that beautiful weather, they're sick. I don't do tomorrow, I ain't leaving now. I went to they got me some honey lemon tea.
I got the sign-in sheet now. That's it.
Okay. The mayor is making presentations with an S tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
Did not bring my glasses. I feel like running down.
Okay. And this person here, he say that she told him, but just in case she don't mention him, he wants you to
That's the mayor.
Yeah.
How you pronounce his last name?
I well the naming commission here.
Yes.
We need to know what to do because we need to be able to put that on the time sheet.
Yeah, they used to.
Who need minutes? I got some back there. You need it right now?
Mix it,
Oh, I
a
got it. I got
teaspoon with each,
I got
and
it.
then you drink all of it.
She didn't put it on with me, so I don't know who put it on. Cassie just had us a high shot. Cassie just had. Yeah, she did. Hi, Cassie. But she don't fuck you all the time.
That's so, Mr.
Cassie.
Man, I brought back a cold. You know hers is gonna warm up to this. Yeah. Man, I wasn't there one day.
Especially the ones that are being kept out the cold.
7 days shot. I mean, I made the best
I
of
got
it.
the dog ordinance
I
part.
missed it.
That dog park ordinance. That
Oh,
dog
yeah.
ordinance. Right. Park.
Oh, I'm sure.
She said that she getting ready to use Jackson Park, I think.
free. You never met her, have you?
Ended up on. Is that right? Yeah, I was raised. I should have gone there. We had shrimp.
You? I'll call you when I'm done after one.
They didn't know they didn't have that. You know, they.
Okay, and then this is just my presentation.
She still be trying to block me.
Yeah, today. And then here's that. And then Dorothy. Okay, we still need to hear from our doctor too, because he proposed to
12.
send something after this period.
She cried.
Okay, so right now we just have
Just give me the language. I'll put it in the
Years
format.
ago. Yeah, this was before she left. I ain't been yet.
wait to say that.
I have one. What's your question?
See the young lady, she can start passing.
Yeah, it's the last item
Yeah.
on the first reading.
Lugging on my
Okay. We will start with the special selection. If I had to guess, I would say 30 minutes from right now. It was the worst time I've ever.
Hanging out there. We can do it. But you know what I'm saying? When it's important to you, you want to pass on all three.
So, I was going to tell you, there's somebody that has continuous, right? I'm still trying to understand the field.
We were supposed to have a
They all
committee
can.
meeting. Go back and remember.
She declared it as a
I don't know. We were supposed to have that committee meeting, come back and talk about it.
somebody double back, and let's go report it. Let's go this way.
She owe you, and I'll make sure she returns the favor. Okay?
You know I'm a reminder.
I'm gonna be right there with you. Hey, you need to
Somebody standing up.
get to the big program, right?
How you doing?
Because it's real bright. It don't bother her that much to look into it. She be looking into it.
See, I don't know what triggered their investigation,
I'm gonna call you.
but they had a report from Whitfield.
Hey, how you doing?
I told Sherry she got the church dress on today.
And she never returns our call.
Tonight.
Yeah, of course. I never call her. Somebody in my office has called. But we did continue.
At the first meeting.
Is she still on the system? She got it because it's no criminal liability. So she leaves benefits for up to 10 years. We were trying to negotiate so much less. And you see Mike Griff. Oh, she was from Clemson. And if they do 10 years retroactive, it's cool. She only got 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, Sherry might have one. Just at the top.
I didn't get a copy.
I hate that too. That's what she need. That's what picked her berries. No. No. Right there in what's that on US 3rd Avenue? That's the girl's baby flower girl, or whatever you call her. She got her picture up here.
1904.
Before we go into special elect, we have some presentations tonight, and before we get into that, I'm gonna have the chief come and address us at this time. We have a chief to come. Please, chief.
Good evening.
Good evening.
As you all may know, the Gary Police Department has been assisting the South Chicago Heights Police Department in trying to locate two missing young women from that location. The Gary Police Department has been working tirelessly with the South Chicago Heights Police Department. We received information on Miss Jessica Flores and Miss Melinda Contrell. There are two mothers that have been missing from South Chicago Heights that reported missing. We have been working with the Lake County Police Department, along with the Lake County Metro Homicide Squad, along with our Gary Violent Crimes Unit, and several other agencies to attempt to locate these two young women. We've received information, we've done searches of the areas where we received information, but what we're asking, because these are young women, these are someone's daughters and someone's mothers, that if you have information in regards to these young women, please contact the Gary Police Department or the Lake County Police Department or the South Chicago Heights Police Department. We have some numbers that you can contact. We have a tip line, 886-274-6347, or our Violent Crimes Unit at 881-1210. Again, we're asking for any information or assistance that we can receive. Again, these are someone's mother, someone's daughter, and it's very disheartening that these young ladies are out there. We need your assistance. We're assisting South Chicago Heights Police Department currently. I believe that the sister of Ms. Flores is here this evening, and I believe she'd like to come up and say.
Thank you, and good evening, councilmen and women. Good evening, President. Good evening, Gary constituents. I'm not from here. I'm from Illinois. My name is Maddie Perez. I'm the sister of Jessica Flores. I'm here to plead with your community to please assist the police with searching. My sister is Jessica Flores. She's been missing since last Sunday. It's not been communicated in this town because the missing report was issued in South Chicago Heights where my sister resided, which was important for me to come out here and start looking for my sister. Jessica's a mother of 6 children. I'm raising her 3 smallest. Today is Isaac's birthday. He just turned 8. And all they keep doing is asking, where's my mom? I walking the streets. Last Saturday, I went to a couple doors, going door to door. And I seen some things that weren't the nicest in this town. And I just want to say that the police have done a wonderful job. The detectives are doing a phenomenal job. They're working nonstop. I want to make sure that that is known. But I did notice that there was some sense of dehumanization with women that have a drug problem in this community. I've seen at least 10 women being mistreated. And, you know, I really think that as a community, it takes a community to change. It takes a community, a village to raise good children. And I'm just asking, I know people have friends out there, you know, and she's a mother, she's loved, she's a person, and if someone has her out there at one of these places, I'm just asking that they let her go, leave her at a park or somewhere, and if not, just call it in wherever she is. We still want her home, we love her, and I just wanted you guys to know who she is, and we love her and we need her back, and any help would be greatly appreciated. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Chief, and Ms. Perez. Our prayers go out to you and your family. We praying that God will allow that your sister come back home in a safe environment. But we continue to search with the police department, and the citizens here take things of this nature very serious. And you just want you to know, don't judge us on how the appearance of our city looks. We have some great citizens of this community, and it takes things like this very serious. And we will all make sure we get the message out about your loved one. Yes. At this time, the mayor will come presentations at this time.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. I just want to say to Jessica's family, I want to just underscore my sentiments that have already been spoken by the council president and the chief. The chief has kept me abreast of every step of the way, and we are providing our full cooperation with the South Chicago Police Department as well as Chicago Heights, and we'll continue to do that. At this time, I am pleased to honor members of our fire department. On Friday, February 8th, at approximately 6 o'clock or 600 hours, a call came in for an accident with injuries, and the police fire department was dispatched to 30th and Grant Street. When they arrived, there was a confirmed pin-in, which was a serious life-threatening situation. The driver was in extreme duress and barely conscious at the time of arrival. The driver was also non-responsive, very cold to the touch, very low respirations, and there was a need for heavy rescue. Everyone on the scene worked diligently together under extreme weather conditions, and we know that we have had those conditions throughout February and March, and that all personnel had important parts in mitigating a very difficult entrapment. After the crews were done extricating the driver from the vehicle, he was verbal and responsive. And as a result of that, Battalion Chief Marvin Brown has requested the commendations for the members of the Gary Fire Department. And so at this time, we would like to acknowledge those individuals publicly. Engineer Roosevelt Mays. And Chief, would you please join me here at the podium, Chief Bradley. Come on, Chief Bradley. I should have requested that because obviously it takes a good leader to get results like this. Okay, all right, thank you. All right, he's working. Firefighter Kenji Patton. Okay, so Firefighter Henry Hegwood. Firefighter Adam Friday. Battalion Chief Rodney Smoot. Captain Eric McDaniel. Engineer Brian Goodson. I do want to call the other names. They are working because, of course, 24 on, 48 off. Paramedic Mark Scherer. Battalion Chief James Adamson. Battalion Chief Marvin Brown. Captain Robert Jones. And again, I just want to commend and thank all of the firefighters, Chief, for their heroic efforts in this incident. Thank you. President, I'd like to ask Kevin Coutinho to come up at this time. He is a young man who lives and works in this community and who has been on the forefront of fashion in this community, and he's bringing his gifts and talents right home to the Genesis Center. So he came and met with me during one of my public meetings, and I thought it was something that all of the members of the council ought to hear about and the public should hear about. Kevin, please.
Good evening, Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, the Common Council of the City of Gary. Excuse me, I'm a little nervous. Thank you for having me. My name is Kevin Coutinho, and the reason I'm here is because I'm going to be throwing another big fashion event here in the city of Gary. The first time I threw a fashion event was June the 2nd of 2017. It was at the Centennial right across the street. It was amazing. You know, I employed over 40 models, 23 designers. I used all of Gary to show that Gary has unmatchable talent. So upon talking to the mayor, I basically wanted to just do a quick presentation about myself, the organization, and the event that I'm going to be having. It all started with the West Side Theater Guild, and I do have packets for you all as well. I'm not sure if you all have those. I've been blessed to have been hired by Mr. Mark Spencer and Mark Spencer and Miss Tony as far as dealing with a lot of shows when it comes to the Gary West Side Theater Guild. From that point on, I was able to move on into modeling. I was blessed to be able to be a part of New York Fashion Week, Chicago Fashion Week, Men's Fashion Week, Carson Perry Scott model, and the list goes on. From that point on, I was blessed to be able to be an actor on a lot of the shows here in Chicago. I was featured on Empire, Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, Steve Harvey Show, and the list goes on. One of my major events that I did that I want the public to know is it was a project called Project McCullough. We all know that our school system is having a hardship. With that being said, I reached out to a couple of organizations, and last year, you may not know, but my organization and their organization, McCullough's All-Girls School, we sponsored their entire cap and gowns, trophies, their yearbooks, 8th grade t-shirts, their composites, their entire 8th grade picnic, and we paid all of their class dues. Wow. So that was something very huge that the organization did. With that being said, I'm back. I'm having a major fashion show that will be here at the Genesis Center Sunday, May 19th, and I just wanted to talk to the council to see if I have sponsorships and donation packages, but it's more than just asking for sponsorships. You know, I was just wondering if possibly if you all have billboards in your districts that I can rent, you know, for advertisement. Everyone knows someone, just word of mouth. And I know I'm on a very short lease, so that's all I basically just wanted to throw out there. Thank you for having me. And if you have any questions or anyone in the audience have any questions, I'll be here for the remainder of the meeting.
Thank you so much. He's someone we need to feature in Good News Gary. At this time, special and select any council member.
Mr. President.
Councilwoman Wyatt.
I move to amend the ordinance, to suspend the rules to amend the ordinance, to amend the agenda, to place CPO 2018-15 on the agenda for this evening. It would be a third and final reading.
Second, Mr. Chair.
That is 51. 51.
Yes.
So they've been moving properly second to suspend the rules and add CPO 2018-51 to the agenda for third and final. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yeah.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
Vote of 9-0, CPO 2018-51 has been added to the agenda and to be presented this evening on third and final. So ordered. Okay. Special and select.
Mr. President.
Councilman Brown.
The public safety committee has pending ordinance 2018-51 for approval by the council of the Records Compensation Committee approved CCO 2018-51 for reporting on committee. For committee members to report, Councilman Herb Smith.
Yes.
Well, wait. We don't have to do that. It's on third and final. So
Yeah.
once the clerk come on third and final, you can report out then. Put it on the floor. Yes. Yes. Okay. Special Councilwoman Brown.
Yeah, I'd just like to announce that the Third District Community Organization will be resuming our bi-monthly meetings for 2019. We have not had a meeting since November. We don't meet during the cold months, but we thought that the cold months would be November, December, January. They're still cold. However, we will be resuming our bi-monthly meetings on Monday, March 11th at 5:30 at Tolleson Pavilion. Our speaker for that day will be Mr. Mandel. I think his name is pronounced Moyo, M-O-Y-O. He's the Director of Community Employment for AARP. He came here to the council meeting one evening and gave us a tremendous amount of information in terms of the kinds of services that AARP provides. And I don't think many of us were aware that AARP does all those things. So I just think that anybody who is interested in what AARP is doing, if you'll please come to that meeting. Again, it's scheduled for Monday, March 11th at 5:30 at Tolleson Pavilion. And I mean, it's okay if you don't belong to AARP. You might have a relative or someone else who belongs who might be interested in that information. So I'm inviting everyone to come out on Monday, March 11th at 5:30 at Tolleson Pavilion to get that information regarding AARP. They provide an awful lot of services, and I just don't believe that many people in the community are aware of the kinds of services that they provide. So hopefully you can come. I look forward to seeing you on March 11th. Thank you, Mr. President.
Welcome. Anyone else?
Mr. President?
Councilwoman White.
Yes, we had an Art, Culture, and History Committee meeting yesterday on Monday night, and we had an excellent presentation from members of the Gary Historic Preservation Commission, and it was videotaped, and so I would encourage everyone to watch that. Remember that the Historic Preservation Commission is set up to designate landmarks in Gary so that we can start to preserve the rich heritage that we have. Thank you.
Any other council members?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Caldwell.
the 5th District will hold their first community meeting for 2019. This meeting will be Monday, March the 25th at 5:30 p.m. at the Roosevelt Pavilion. Our special guest is Dr. Janet Seabrook from Community Health Net. All are welcome to attend. Also, the 5th District will be having a nutrition education program. This will be every Monday, April the 8th, the 15th, the 22nd, the 29th, May the 6th, the 13th. And this will be at 5:30. Our special guest will be Beth Noel from Purdue Education Program. If you recall, last year we had one of the classes, and since it's a 6-week course, we're going to take part in the 6-week course this time, and we're going to learn free and fun nutrition lessons. Learn about healthy food options, reading labels, and portion sizes. We'll cook a sample dish together, and you'll get a free gift for coming to class. So I look forward to seeing you on those dates. Thank you.
Councilman Proto.
I was excited the other day when I went over to 21st Century to meet with the coaches. I've been employed with the Geary Community School Corporation for 43 years, and I know the problems that we've always had with baseball fields and trying to play games at home. So when I went over, Nate, George, and myself at the Caskins, he had some very good conversations last year. So he promised me he was gonna have a sign there that they can put on display when they're playing their home games at the Ambridge baseball field. And I was hoping that the young lady did this, and I was hoping she could have been here today. And he said she couldn't make it. But I'm gonna look forward to bringing her back down there because I want everybody to see the talent that this young lady has. And so we're trying to get the field ready. The weather has just been horrible. Everybody knows that. And it's not over yet. But we're working at it. And so I don't want anybody to be mad with me because I'm supporting the charter school, and I support the public schools all the time. Everybody that's our kids that go to school here in the city deserve to have the respect that they need. And 21st Century just won the basketball sections again for the second year in a row. So we need to gather around that, give them some support. And I look forward to Vincent Pepper out there to cut some trees. You know, we got people like Iraq and others who work. We got the extra one out there. That's what I wanted to say about that. This is my first time being back, and I've missed 2 weeks going through some health issues that's about to make me drive my car into the driveway, put it in park, and I won't put it in reverse. That means I will not be employed with the school system. I'm getting ready to give it up. Thank you.
Any other council members?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Rogers.
thank you. I did submit this information to my assistant, but I did notice that not only have I been getting calls, but there have been calls regarding potholes. There's a major pothole issue on 15th Avenue, the street over there by the post office, going up that bridge, going down the bridge, all the way to Clay Street, same with Central Avenue, and I'm talking really large potholes. Central Avenue from Martin Luther King to the Lake Station State Line, 11th Avenue from Broadway to Martin Luther King, 15th from Broadway to Martin Luther King. And again, I'm bringing this up because they're very, very large potholes. People have called in, and I have also made sure that that information is on the 311 system. One of the things I learned listening to Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson on WLTH this morning is that there's a lot of tree cutting going on in the city, and I've seen guys at different locations cutting down trees, and I was learned today that this information needs to be submitted to the city in order to make sure that these trees and branches are removed. And I know Daryl's Tech, Auto Tech Shop on Martin Luther King Drive and Central Avenue, right next to that, someone came in and cut a lot of trees down, as well as 21st Avenue today and the past couple days, 21st and Louisiana, trees are being cut down. And I'm not sure if it's this private, whether or not this is one of the companies here in the city. I'm not really sure, but those are the locations. And finally, I want to talk a little bit about the Operation High Impact, which is, if I'm not mistaken, it's those areas where you're entering the city or you're leaving the city. And those areas, we've been told, are high priority as far as removing debris. And so, again, Central Avenue, when you're coming from Lake Station, you automatically know when you hit Gary. There are trees and there are furniture and debris from Martin Luther King Drive and Central Avenue to the Lake Station line, pretty much. and would just ask the administration to look into those concerns of my constituents as well as concerns of mine as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Brown?
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. It's really important to see the participation from our community. Again, I would like to congratulate the fire department on doing a fantastic job. I also want to thank the residents. I'm seeing more and more residents pull over when the emergency lights, come. I think that's very important because it eliminates the possibility, one, of the response time for the first responders or the police, fire, emergency, and also cuts down on possibility for the accident. So I want to commend our residents because I'm out there, I see it, and I've been talking to you about it and asking people to be more considerate because you never know, whether it's your loved one or not that's involved in that. And I also want to thank the young lady who spoke tonight. Met her Saturday, she was passing out the flyers on behalf of her sister. And again, I ask anyone that may know to please help this family. I know we all have family members and we all have challenges, but we're all here to really help each other. And that's some of the things that we can do. And I know people have some negative connotations about our city. But the wonderful thing about the city of Gary is the people that's in it. The buildings may be old, the streets may have potholes, there may be some vacancies, there may be a lot of other things. Wasn't always like that. And the only way that's ever going to change is that we move forward and try to do everything in our power to work together. And I think that's what's important about this council and the administration we have here, as well as the people in the audience. We can agree to disagree, but one thing for sure, we should take a very positive attitude and try to move forward and try to repair the city as best we can. Thank you and God bless you.
Any other council members? I'd like to say just one quick announcement. The cleanup committee will meet March the 21st at 5:30 p.m. for 1 hour as we discuss our cleanup efforts for 2019. Councilwoman Brown said this is our first meeting of the year, and we don't meet through the wintertime also, but we're going to get started because we know the big cleanup takes place in April, so we want to make sure that we're prepared. But what I'm asking all council members to do is send a representative from your district. We want every district to be represented in our cleanup efforts so that way no district is being left behind. We have some members there, but sometimes we have more members in one district and your district is not properly represented. So sometimes more focus goes to that certain district and not your district. So I would like every district to be represented, at least with 2 members that can come out and speak upon the things that needs to be done inside your district. I am one of the council at larges, but I don't know everything that's going on in the entire city. But it puts a better spin when we have different other eyes and ears on what's going on inside your district. So we're asking for at least 2 representatives from each district to come to our cleanup meeting, and we will be doing some reorganizing at the same time. But we want to make a strong effort in our cleanup efforts this year inside the city. And I think we're doing a great start because we're starting early. As soon as this weather break, we're going to get out here and we're going to hit it hard in our cleanup efforts. Nothing else from no one else. Let's go right into third and final at this time. Madam Clerk.
CPO 2018-51, an ordinance amending Chapter 8 regarding the humane treatment of animals and animal control procedures in the city of Gary, sponsored by Rebecca Wyatt, Councilwoman, 1st District.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chair?
Yes. Yes. Oh, just motion approved.
Just a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Overview at this time.
Mr. President, this ordinance is an amendment to the current animal control ordinance, and it seeks to make our ordinance more humane to the animals, so it has restrictions on weather. So one, it would be a violation of the ordinance to tether an animal outside during an extreme cold or the extreme heat. There are certain restrictions, restrictions on the length of a tether that would, so you'd need to have a tether that was long enough so that the animal could move around. And then you would have shelter that the animal could be comfortable in, warm enough in the cold weather, and to have adequate food and water. And so we had several constituents from the first district approached me earlier last year about this ordinance, and we've worked together with the Animal Control Department and come up with this amendment that meets the needs of the community and also meets the needs of the enforcement component. And so what I'd like to do is have a short presentation by some of the constituents who have supported this ordinance.
Before we go to presentation, can I have a motion to, for the amendment to move forward? Yeah. Is there a second on the motion? Second by Councilman Proto. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 9-0.
Vote of 9-0, CPO 2018-51 has been amended and so ordered. Councilwoman White has already started the overview. We will continue at this time. Councilwoman White.
Yes. And so I have Ms. Sabrina Hayes from the First District, and she will run the presentation for us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, council members. I so appreciate being able to stand up here and bend your ear about something that's very important to us. We're having technical difficulties, but we have a beautiful presentation you may not get to see, so I'll just tell you, it's great. But we're very excited about this animal ordinance because it's a very positive, city-forward Gary initiative that doesn't cost any money. What I wanted to show you is the fact that all across the country, different municipalities are doing the same thing. Because what's happened with the millennials not having as many kids, dog ownership has exploded. Birth rates go down, dog ownership goes up, it's up like 40% of all households in the last 5 years. The way that other jurisdictions have embraced this is to go in front of the population and say, our police department is very much in favor of humane treatment of animals, and these are the initiatives that we're taking to make sure that they're cared for properly. Our big issue, and it's not unique to Gary, I mean it's everywhere sadly, but we have our share, and we are most concerned with the fact that dogs can live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on a chain in the city of Gary. It's draconian, it's barbaric, and it's outlawed in most of the big cities in the country. When we get this pulled up, I'll show you what the other jurisdictions in the state of Indiana have done, but every jurisdiction that's our size and higher has outlawed this practice. And it's not just urban communities that do it, rural communities do it as well. But the problem with dogs who are, if you allow them to be chained 24 hours a day, they are the dogs that tend to get forgotten. They tend to not be fed, they don't have water, because a lot of people just chain them up and then it's out of sight, out of mind, they forget about them. And I can't tell, it's not just people who don't care about dogs, a lot of people just forget about them. A lot of residents that I've talked to have given the dogs to the parents. The parents are older, sometimes they have dementia, and they forget about the animals. The dogs that I've gone and talked to people personally, it's usually that they have forgotten that they've got an animal out there starving, or doesn't have water, or the water's frozen in most cases. So it isn't always abject neglect. Sometimes it's just that they don't know that this is a responsibility. And this is something that people used to do as well. 100 years ago, they would treat dogs like this, leave animals on chains, and all kinds of horrible things. But we're progressing as a country and progressing as a state as well. I can't show you what some of the other initiatives are, but I can tell you a couple of them from memory. The FBI has a database now. They are so convinced that animal neglect, and dog abuse is a gateway crime that they have now added it to their criminal database where they track offenders from point A to point B and sort of do a regression analysis to see who's going to come into the criminal justice system. The Fraternal Order of Police, the National Sheriff's Association, every big law enforcement organization has come out with a white paper or even an app that encourages officers to be aware of animal neglect, because that's often where you'll find other criminal activity. The national government, which can't get its act together on anything else, did pass a bill that came into effect in January where victims of domestic violence, I should give you a little bit of context on this. A lot of times people are afraid to leave their abusers because the abuser will hurt the animal. And this, it sounds ridiculous, but it's actually a very common complaint that you get if people who are working in domestic violence, they know about this. The women, it tends to be women, not always, they don't want to leave the home because the person that's behind there will tell them that I am going to do X, Y, and Z to your animal. So as part of the federal initiative now, the shelters that receive that money now have to have a designated place where they can bring their pet. So they don't have to choose between their own safety and knowing that their animal's going to be tortured. So those are some of the initiatives at the federal level. At the state level, Indiana is right in the middle. The best state, according to people who analyze the rules and the laws and how animals are treated, is Illinois, and the worst state is Kentucky. So we're literally and figuratively right between them. Indiana is like number 18 when you look at the various factors. Gary will move to the forefront by outlawing overnight tethering. We will be seen as a progressive, city-forward, city with compassion. I know you have a lot of things to talk about and a lot of different things to take your attention, but this is one thing we can do to put us on a progressive, forward, smiling presentation of the city that doesn't cost any money. And there are a lot of cities that actually market themselves as city-friendly cities, like dog destinations and dog-friendly cities. Asheville, North Carolina has just exploded, and they're doing it in part by marketing themselves as a friendly dog destination with dog parks. They also outlawed overnight tethering. So it's a way to market the city that doesn't cost a lot. And we've got great volunteers here. The Gary Animal Coalition is a group of people, you can see them with their dog buttons. They are animal activists, animal professionals, people who care, people who have just come together and said, let's get behind this and see what we can do to help the city. And they are standing ready to help, as volunteers, get the word out. If the council passes this, and I certainly hope you do, we want to help the city get the education component going, because we know most people don't do this on purpose. They just don't know that this is not the way to treat an animal. So we would like to help distribute flyers. We have resources. We have all kinds of things available to take out to the public and help you so that we're not asking for something without offering something back. So I know you've all seen the ordinance. You're on the third vote and the third reading and getting ready to vote. And I'm sorry I don't have the materials that I had intended to give you. We did a beautiful, and it was up there this whole time, and right before we got up, it went off. So there you go. So I did email it to, I think, half of you. I'll follow up with an email if you'd like to see it. I know people in Miller are getting sick of hearing from me, but I won't send it out to them anymore. And I would just encourage you, please, do the right thing for these animals, and we will help do everything we can to spread the word and take the burden off of the education component. Thanks. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Mayor?
I just wanted to add a couple of things. One is that both Commander Colbert and Sergeant Breitenstein, along with members of the Gary Police Department, support this ordinance. They've been working with the coalition, and I know that during the first cold snap, and I suspect it's going on right now as well, Sergeant Breitenstein went throughout the city looking for animals, particularly dogs that might have been leashed in their backyards. And so this is something that our animal control department is very sensitive to. The other thing is that we are completing a grant under the leadership of Nate George and Brenda Scott Henry to become a better city for pets. It's the grant is due Friday, and this is a part of an overall effort because a large portion of that grant involves education.
Okay. Any questions, council members, at this time? Okay. All right. At this time, public portion is now open for anyone that would like to speak for or against. You have 3 minutes to speak on this ordinance? All right. Been out that long. Okay, 3 minutes to speak on this ordinance. You can use the mic to my right. Seeing none. Seeing one.
Rise in support of this ordinance. I take it very seriously. I've been chased by dogs. I'm a runner throughout Marquette. I need to run some more. Throughout Marquette Park and around the city. And I really want to thank Sabrina and Jill and the whole coalition who really, and I follow you all on Nextdoor, so we've been hearing a lot about it, who really have been educating all of us on this issue and pushing it. And so I want to thank you for your citizen leadership in nudging all of us to do better and to be better, and to thank you, Councilwoman Wyatt, for championing this legislation in response to citizen concerns. I urge passage, and I thank you, and I'm happy to see that, Mayor, our city is moving forward in a big way to really make our city shine on this issue. Thank you.
Cliff Caldwell, 5th District. I support the ordinance as well. What I would like to also see, we got a lot of animal code ordinances on the books already. I would like to see us beef up our animal enforcement division. We're actually the only city in this area with the animal enforcement, not animal control, meaning our animal enforcement, they can make arrests for the animal cruelty statutes, state statutes, they can write citations, they can do a whole lot more than animal control. Most animal control just go and pick up an animal and take it to a shelter. Right now, our animal enforcement, I believe they make about $26,000, $27,000 a year. Many of them have been there for over 20 years, 15 years, very dedicated to the city. So I'd like for us to put some teeth behind them so they can go out and enforce the codes we already have on the book for animals, and including this one. We can pass this one. We can pass this ordinance, but if we don't have anybody out there to enforce it, then, I mean, we just passing the ordinance. So we really need to beef up our animal enforcement, do some recruiting. I believe in the current budget, there was proposals to cut animal enforcement. So, I believe they lost a supervisor over there. So we need to really look at that if we've got to get a grant to put some more people over there, give them a pay raise. They haven't had a pay raise in over almost 13 years. So, thank you.
Mr. President.
Do I have 2 more speakers?
Okay.
Oh, no, there's one, I have one more speaker.
Good evening. I'm for this ordinance, but I also feel that we should have animal education as well. Because a lot of people get pets, children get pets, but they're not totally educated on how to take care of pets. When you have a pet, you have to take care of a pet just like you take care of a person. They need shots. They need to go to veterinarians, just like you need to go to the doctor. And I've seen where I'm at, we've had the Humane Society come out, try to spade, neuter cats, dogs. And a lot of people don't know that under state law, cats are supposed to be on a leash. Indiana state law. But once again, it goes back to what I said about education. And also, this reminds me of the organization Cause for Paws, who's always out trying to educate people about pets. So I'm for this ordinance, but just as the previous person said about enforcement, I also feel that we should be doing classes in education. Thank you.
Seeing no one else, public portion is closed. Councilman White?
May we run the presentation?
Yes.
Now? It's back up. Thank you.
I'm not going to show the whole presentation because I don't want to tax your time. I just want to, there was a video that Eve the rapper did that, if you haven't seen this, this will bring home to you the reason that we are so passionate about this cause. Because you don't see these. When you drive down the street, you rarely are going to see what's going on in the backyard. We see it. We go out looking. We've been down the alleys, and this video could have been filmed here. So I'll just show you this video, and then I will be quiet and take my seat. But I hope that you see this, because then you'll see what we're talking about and why we're here. Oh, well, this isn't going to work either.
Hold on, here we go. Give me a second.
the proposal and please have a look. And thank you so much for your consideration and hopefully passage.
Thank you. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
With a vote of 9-0, CPO 2018-51 has passed on third and final and so ordered.
CPO 2019-05, an ordinance of the City of Gary amending ordinance number 9217, the city fee schedule relating to Gary Fire Department fees for emergency services, sponsored by Angela Hayes, City Controller, City of Gary, and Chief Paul Bradley, Fire Chief.
Councilman Brown.
I move the passage of CPO 2019-05 on third and final reading.
Second.
Been moved and properly second. Overview at this time. Mayor's coming.
Mr. President, members of the council, and members of the public, probably about a year ago, we amended the fees that were charged through the fire department, and there were two fees that were not included in Ordinance 9217 due to an oversight. The added fees are that both residents and non-residents are subject to a mileage fee, and this is for EMS services of $13 per mile, and then all fees set forth above are subject to an annual increase of 3%, and that would be effective January 1st of each year, so there would be an annual increase. These are consistent with neighboring communities, and we would simply ask that these aspects be incorporated so that we can continue to provide the services through the EMS. Most folks know that that is a lot of the work that comes out of the fire department, although they do respond to fire calls, but they respond to an incredible number of EMS calls.
Any questions, council members, for the mayor? Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, set aside for public portion. Anyone like to speak for or against CPO 2019-05? You have 3 minutes to speak on this ordinance.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. My name is Jim Nowacki. I live in the 2nd District. And we know the good work being done by our first responders. You saw a commendation being awarded today. But if we had a commendation awarded every time our first responders perform heroically and save a life in our city, there would be no time at these meetings for anything else. The mayor said in her overview that the costs of this service, and I've underlined it in the third whereas, is to cover the cost of these emergency services. But what we need to take a special note is that while our services are in line with other communities, I would be not last to say that the service provided is far from comparable to the surrounding services. It is in fact exceptionally comparable to those other communities. So I'm going to urge the council to make this small change for the mileage, to recognize that these fees, especially if we consider that in that golden hour, sometimes we talk about the golden hour, and that's the brief period of time between when an accident occurs and when a victim arrives at a hospital to provide emergency services. That is not a small matter and well worth the $600, the $700, or even the $800 for the advanced level 2 service. So I'm going to urge the council to not only make this correction to the ordinance providing for mileage, but make a special note that any victim who is in need of these services is getting first-class service, heroic efforts by our first responders, and Godspeed when the need occurs. Thank you.
All right.
Good evening, council members. My name is Ann Walker. I'm from the 3rd District. And let me tell you, a lot of people in Gary do not know that the fire department will come out and assist you in your home. My husband, I couldn't get him out the bed. And when I couldn't find my grandsons, I had to wash them in the bed. And I decided at the time, Chief Walker, which was my brother-in-law, was the chief, so I decided to call him. I said, yeah, I'm gonna get him. And when he got there, he said, Ann, this is one of our duties. I didn't know this. He said, anytime you want to get him out that bed, just call them, they will come. And anytime, I'm telling you, they was Johnny on the spot. So the citizens of Gary need to know these things, especially old people. You know, they don't know, they don't have nobody to call. The fire department is there, I'm telling you. And have a good evening. Thank you.
Kendra S. Johnson, 4th District. No one has to tell me how great the Gary Fire Department is. I have had my house firebombed in the past, and they were there. And many of you know that I lost my grandson in a fire. And the firemen did their best to save him, and they were even able to resuscitate his heart. And at the funeral for my grandson, my daughter called the firemen up in front of the church and presented her Gift of Hope medallion that was given to her for donating his organs to our firefighters. And she said, thanks to you, I was able to say goodbye to my son. Well, Gift of Hope was so impressed by that. They created an award to honor first responders for preserving life. Because if they didn't preserve life, there wouldn't be organ donors. And who were the first recipients? Our Gary Fire Department. So they have set a precedence in terms of inspiring an award to be given to first responders. So I believe in any way that we can assist our firemen, assist our first responders, assist our police officers, we should. Because when we put into them and show how much we care about them, that inspires them even more to care about us. Thank you.
Seeing no one else, public portion is now closed. Any further discussion, council members? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
Vote of 9-0, CPO 2019-05, pass on third and final and so ordered.
CPO 2019-07, an ordinance appropriating 2019 budgets for the operating expenses of grants and special revenue funds for the Gary Human Relations Commission and Youth Services Bureau of the City of Gary for the calendar year for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2019 and ending December 31st, 2019. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Mr. President,
Councilman Brown.
I move to pass CPO 2019-07 on third and final reading.
Second?
We're moving properly second. Overview at this time.
Mr. President, members of the council, this ordinance addresses the appropriations of dollars for the Gary Youth Services Bureau as they participate in the summer meals program during out-of-school time for young people aged 0 to 18. Well, I guess if you're 0 to probably 2, you might not go to school. But for our young folks, and we know a lot of times older kids babysit for the younger children. The meals and administrative costs are actually reimbursable through the Indiana Department of Education, who actually administers a federal grant that comes through the Department of Agriculture. This grant employs 1 bus driver, 1 food manager, 1 youth leader for approximately 8 weeks during the summer. Breakfast and lunch are delivered throughout the day to various sites throughout the city. And last year, YSB had 20 sites that included churches, daycares, and summer enrichment programs, including our own. In addition to that, it also represents funds that are received from by the City of Gary for processing EEOC claims. These are federal dollars that we receive through a grant to process discrimination claims and different tiers, and part of that is to ensure continuing education who are in our Gary Human Relations Department so that they are educated on the Rights Act of 1964 as amended. And so there is funds for 1 investigator, and then there are also dollars for travel and education. It also represents funds received by the Gary Human Relations Commission for community development, funds received by the Gary Human Relations Commission for fair housing enforcement, which is separate from employment enforcement, but there are we have the ability to investigate claims of discrimination based on all of the traditional categories, but also familial status, meaning if someone won't rent to someone because they have too many children or too many people in their family. Finally, this also supports the appropriations for the processing of discrimination cases that would occur in accordance with our local ordinance as well as the state statute and the.
Is there any question for the mayor? Council?
Mr. Comment. Mayor, I just want to because we've been to those hearings are a view for a lot of questions that we have. Those department heads, they come before us in those committee hearings to educate us. So before we make these votes, a lot of times we've already had the committee hearings. I just want the public to clearly understand that. And the mayor, she's at those meetings as well as those department heads and explains everything to us and answers any questions. So when she comes tonight, she's coming before the general public again to make it clear as to what the need is. And council members, we are educated on what needs to be done, and that's the reason why we're voting the way we do. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Brown. Any other council members? Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Tonight is set aside for public portion. Anyone like to speak for or against CPO 2019-07? You have 3 minutes to speak on this ordinance.
Kendra S. Johnson, 4th District. Both of these are departments that are sorely needed. Just recently, you had a public hearing for community block grant funds. And for anyone that's interested, the period to talk, to comment on where the money is spent for that is still open. When it comes to human relations, I remember some time ago when Ivanhoe was open, the human relations came to Ivanhoe to talk about when they got ready to transition out of Ivanhoe into the next phase of housing, what their rights and responsibilities were. So when you ask about what type of community outreach do they do, that's part of it. I'm looking forward to seeing them in Dory Miller as we get ready to prepare for us to be shut down, so that the residents have an idea of what their rights and responsibilities are once they transition. When it comes to the Youth Services Bureau, I'm always supporting that food program. I worked at it when I was in Dory Miller. I was over it in Dory Miller. My daughter, before she worked at Homeland Security, she worked in the lunch program for approximately 4 years. It's a great program. And my son last year participated working for that program. So I'm for this, and once again, you know, we need to make sure we support and be attentive to the funding. And thank you, Councilman Brown, for saying that they do come on TV. I talk to a lot of people that unfortunately don't get cable, and I've been telling them to check Ustream as well to see our council meetings, and I'm hoping that those committee meetings are also on Ustream as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Seeing no one else, public portion is now closed. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown? Yes. Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 9-0.
Vote of 9-0, CPO 2019-07, passed on third and final, and so ordered.
CPO 2019-08, an ordinance revising the 2019 appropriations for the Vehicle Auction Budget Fund 254 for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2019, ending December 31st, 2019. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Finley Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Mr. President.
Councilwoman Brown.
CPO 2019-08 on third and final reading.
Second.
Been moving properly second. Overview at this time.
Good evening again, Mr. President, members of the council. This is this budget amendment, rather, provides funding for repairs to Gary Police Department vehicles. The dollars come from the Vehicle Auction Fund. Those are vehicles that may be towed as a result of illegal parking or as a result of some other reason, lawful reason why the police department would tow a vehicle. The person is given the opportunity to retrieve their vehicle, but sometimes, particularly when we see vehicles abandoned on the street, people do not retrieve their vehicles, and when they don't get them back, that provides for, there's a state statute that covers how long they have to be maintained before they can be auctioned by the tow operator. And then after that, those dollars, a portion of those dollars, go back to the police department. These are the dollars that would be available for the repair of police vehicles. And while we are working to identify dollars to get new police vehicles, we know that we still have to maintain some of the newer vehicles as well as, unfortunately, some of the older vehicles.
Any questions, council members? Thank you, Mayor. Tonight is set aside for public portion. Anyone would like to speak for or against CPO 2019-08? You have 3 minutes to speak on this ordinance.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. My name is Jim Nowacki. I live in the 2nd District. And Happy to see that the council is amending this ordinance upwards. The proceeds from these auctions go to underwrite important services necessary for maintenance for our vehicles, our police vehicles. I don't quite understand why the numbers have gone up so high, but there is one particular number that stuck out in my imagination, and not favorably so, and that is item 321, travel and education, going from $0 to $6,000. Very happy to see the increases in repair parts and repairs to equipment and all the other what I would consider normal expenditures, but $6,000 in travel and education without an explanation, I think I would be skeptical of that. I don't understand why repairing a car requires travel. It seems to me that maybe the council would ask the question, or maybe someone from the police department can explain what $6,000 of traveling is. Thank you.
Seeing no one else, public portion is closed. Deputy Chief?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And that was a great question, and I'm glad it was asked. The money for travel and education is a line item for either travel or education. As you know, vehicles are very complex and complicated now. They have computer systems, they have all kind of new technologies. That money is to be used to train the mechanics at our garage to work on new vehicles and to be in compliance with new laws as the vehicles change. And that $6,000 is for the entire staff of general services. It's not for police officers, it's for that staff. The travel and education is one line. It can be used for travel and education. That line item is in every budget in the city.
Thank you. I believe that did get touched on at the committee meeting, so yes, appreciate it. Okay, it was? Okay. If there's no other discussion, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
Vote of 9-0. CPO 2019-08 has passed on third and final and so ordered.
CPR 2019-01, a resolution of the Gary Common Council granting T&B Company Incorporated an excess valuation deduction tax abatement for depreciable personal property pursuant to Indiana Code 6-1.1-12.1, sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Department of Commerce, and the Gary Economic Development Corporation.
Draw CPR 2019-01 from this evening's agenda. We will revisit it. The petitioner was not able to make the Finance Committee meeting, and so that's our rule. If you don't come to the committee meeting, then we don't hear your ordinance, at the regular meeting.
So are we going to send it back to committee?
It will be on the agenda for the next Finance Committee meeting.
Okay, all right.
Second.
Been moving properly second.
Which is March 13th, I'm sorry, which will be Wednesday, March 13th at 5:30.
Wednesday.
So it's not a withdrawal, you're moving it back to committee then?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
I just want to
we'll
make sure
move
we
it back
put-
to committee.
Okay.
What I said was it's being withdrawn from this agenda,
Yes.
but yes, we'll move it back to that.
And that date again, please?
Wednesday, March 13th at 5:30.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Brown?
Thank you.
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
The vote of 9-0, CPR 2019-01 is moving to the Finance Committee, March the 13th at 5:30.
Mr. President, it's pending ordinances and resolutions on third and final.
Councilman, the ordinance resolution on second reading.
CPO 2019-09, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code
of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Dedrick Curtis, 200 West 75th Avenue, Maryville, Indiana. Property 1100 Virginia Street, Gary, Indiana.
Mr. President,
Councilman Smith.
I move for passage of CPO 2019-09 on second reading with the committee hearing on March 13th at 5 p.m. and a public hearing on March 19th at 6 p.m.
Okay, moving properly second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
With a vote of 9-0, CPO 2019-09 is moving to the Planning Committee March the 13th at 5 p.m. and a public hearing March the 20th at 6 p.m. Councilman?
Wednesday versus Tuesday? Is something going on Tuesday?
The 13th?
That's the
Yeah, we
day
usually
today.
have.
That's-
Scheduling problem or something?
That's just a date that the chairman's, yeah. Yeah. She was asked, was there a particular reason why we switched the date from Tuesday to Wednesday? And I just told her it was just a date
No, we
that
can't
the
do it
chairman.
on Tuesday, so we moved the date to Wednesday.
Okay.
Tuesday's not cast in concrete, it's just that that's what I've always done. So sometimes you have to change it.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilwoman.
Next ordinance.
CPO 2019-10, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Uses Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Anita Streeter, 744 Kentucky Street, Gary, Indiana. Property at 744 Kentucky Street, Gary, Indiana.
Mr. President,
Councilman Smith.
move for passage of CPO 2019-10 on second reading with the planning meeting on March the 13th at 5 p.m. and a public hearing on March 19th at 6 p.m.
You're right, because that one should have been 19 too.
Yeah.
You're right. You good. Yeah, because the last one came to 20. Okay, I'll make it. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
With a vote of 9-0, CPO 2019-10 is moved to the Planning Committee. Planning Committee meeting at March the 13th at 5 p.m. and a public hearing March 19th at 6 p.m. And that also be for 09. Public hearing will be March the 19th at 6 p.m.
CPO 2019-11, an ordinance amending the salary and operating budgets for the Commission for Women Fund 261-520, sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller, and the Gary Commission for Women.
Mr. President, I move the passage of CPO 2019-11 on second reading. Finance Committee meeting on Wednesday, March 13th at 5:30 p.m. and a public hearing on March 19th.
Second.
Been moving properly second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 9-0.
Vote of 9-0, CPO 2019-11 is moved to the Finance Committee March the 13th at 5:30 p.m. and a public hearing March the 19th at 6 p.m.
CPO 2019-12, an ordinance appropriating 2019 budgets for the operating expenses of grants and special revenue funds for solid waste recycling of the City of Gary for the calendar year beginning for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2019, ending December 31st, 2019, sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Mr. President, I move for passage of CPO 2019-12 on second reading, Finance Committee meeting on Wednesday, March 13th at 5:30 p.m., and a public hearing on March 19th.
Second.
Moving properly second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Protho?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
Vote of 9-0. CPO 2019-12 is moving to the Finance Committee March the 13th at 5:30 p.m. and a public hearing March the 19th at 6 p.m.
CPR 2019-04, a resolution by the Gary Common Council opposing proposed NIPSCO rate hike, sponsored by Herbert Smith, Councilman at Large, and Rebecca Wyatt, Councilwoman of the Second District, and members of the Common Council.
Mr. President, I guess my question on this is, are we going to just adopt this tonight, or are we going to have public hearing?
Yes.
How are we going to do this? Okay,
I will allow public hearing for this, yes.
okay. So then, I move for passage of CPR 2019-04 on second reading.
There's second.
Second.
Been properly second. At this time, I will have an overview at this time.
She sent it to committee. If you want to pass them all three, you got to suspend them. She put it in committee. You don't need it on computer, put it in committee.
So I think that was, she was asking.
That's what she was
So,
asking.
okay, so Councilwoman Brown, I'm sorry. Yeah, we would like to pass it tonight on all three.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we need to suspend the rules to pass on all three. So can we, if we can withdraw that motion there?
President,
pass on all
I
three.
move to withdraw my motion to move for passage on second reading. So I move to suspend the rules to pass CPR 2019-04 on all three readings.
Second.
Moving properly second, to suspend the rules and pass on all three readings. Roll call on suspension of the rules.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Protho?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 9-0.
Vote of 9-0, CPR 2019-04. We have suspended the rules at this time to pass on all three readings. Have Councilwoman Wyatt, if she would give the overview.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. President. This resolution is in opposition to the proposed hike in our rates by NIPSCO. What they are proposing to do is raise the rates for residents and small businesses by 12%, while at the same time reducing the rates by 19% for the big industry, the big companies. And so, as it would be significant hardship on the consumers in this area, in this city, I propose that we vote to adopt this resolution and oppose the rate hike. We do have, I do have a gentleman from my district who's willing to speak further about this, if we can allow him to speak for a moment. This is Mr. Corey Hagelberg from the First District.
Hi, thank you for listening to us tonight. So yeah, as Rebecca put it, NIPSCO has proposed to the IURC to raise residential rates by 12%. So as we know, the city is struggling financially. Many of our residents are struggling financially. We've seen a period of growth with our small businesses in the last 5 years or so, but any extra money that we have to pay on top of what we're already paying to NIPSCO could be a terrible detriment to our community. So again, you know, the crux of this is that the big industrial customers, 5 industrial customers, BP, U.S. Steel, ArcelorMittal, NLMK Steel, and Praxair are all getting a 19% reduction in their rates. So we're having to pay for that. for the reduction that they're getting in their rates. We do applaud, or not applaud, but we agree with NIPSCO's decision to go to renewable energy, but almost the entire portion of this rate hike is from that rate shift from the industrial customers to us and the small businesses. So thank you for taking our time. Ron here had a couple things as well.
Let me do this, Ron, before we go there, because I'm going to allow the public to speak. So let me just, is there any question from the council member? I just want to kind of do a little housekeeping real quick. Council members at this time on this ordinance. Okay. All right.
Okay. This is just, normally you all haven't seen me down here in a while, but I think something this important. I'm a landlord. Sometime I've had situations where my tenant would say, Mr. Matlock, I can't afford to pay my rent this month. I said, well, it's going to double up next month. It's going to be even higher. So, but when they're going to have their utilities shut off, and sometimes these people are just, I mean, they can't afford it anymore. And basically, I sometimes tell them, well, we'll wait and go to the next month. Well, they can't, and I don't even charge them a late charge. And then they come back and said, well, I can't pay now because I think we're talking about $12 more a month. And that equals to about $132 a year. That's quite a bit. And most of us here could afford to pay our utilities. But I have, like I say, as a landlord, I've experienced this. And I tell them a lot of times, if landlord go up on your rent, it's because he's paying more in taxes and everything else. So naturally, I have to sometimes, but you can't do that when people can't pay their utilities. Now, they're supposed to have a moratorium on during the winter months, on not shutting people off. I just had here last month, which was very cold, they shut a person off and they had 5 little kids in there. So we appreciate if you all would understand why we're here tonight, and understand we appreciate if you could do this resolution. And on the 11th of next month, we'll be going toward Hammond High School. That's what they have. About 7 years ago, we went before in our regulatory commission at IU Northwest. Myself and Karen Pulliam, who was the head of the NAACP at the time, we were able to mobilize 500 people there, and we were able to stop it. So we could do it now. But numbers makes all the sense in the world. We just hope that everybody would turn out to that, because it's very important. That's on the level. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Ashley Williams at Michigan City. I just really implore y'all to think deeply about this, and surely you know someone that has struggled to pay their NIPSCO bill, and this imposes the heaviest burden on those that are already hurting. You know, it's really important that we oppose this disproportionate and unjust cost shift that, again, is taking from the little men and us guys at the bottom, while giving to big industry at the top. And this is something that has routinely continued within our region, and we continue to see. And so I think it's really important that we take a stand now. And you know, it's unright. It's not right to think about how folks have to rather than affording their NIPSCO, rather than giving life-saving medication to their young ones, or putting food on the table, that they have to choose between that or keeping the lights on. And that's just not right. And I think by continuing on this trajectory and really paying heed to this motion that Rebecca is making, it's setting an important precedent for our region. So I really implore you to look into this further and hope that you make the right decision here. Thank you.
But there's no objection from the council with the issue of this magnitude. I'm going to open up the public portion at this time. Anyone would like to speak for or against this resolution? I will allow you 3 minutes to speak at this time.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. My name is Jim Nowacki. I live in the 2nd District, and of course, the entire council is going to vote favorably on this resolution. I'm sure the mayor supports it. It is an election year. The problem is not just that NIPSCO is going to raise the rates at this point, but what about the horrible service that we've gotten all year long without a whimper from the council? when I see lights dark all over this city, many of them on NIPSCO poles. The responsibility, do you know that we pay an electric fee for all of those lights, even though they're not working? We continue to have to pay a fee as if it is working, even when it's not. They require the city to notify them that the lights don't work. And then they require the city to follow them diligently to make sure that they get the job done. And if we don't do that, notify them, keep their nose to the grind wheel, and it doesn't get done, we have to live with the results. And the problem with that is that's your problem. Not that they're just raising rates. It's an election season. We're against raising rates. How about 365 days a year when this council and the administration doesn't hold NIPSCO accountable? Not just for the dark lights, but how about when they dig up the street and do a shabby job of repairing the street after they're done? Go through other communities, you won't see that. But when you come to Gary, you see that they've done a job half as good, and that means half-ass, okay? So vote for this favorably. You're all running for re-election. The mayor's running for re-election. You're all going to take bows on this one. But how about all year long, when the hard work, keeping NIPSCO accountable, that's where we're falling short. Thank you.
Good evening, Kendra S. Johnson, 4th District. My concern about this is extremely dire and genuine. Many people don't know that if your utilities are terminated, if they're cut off in public housing, your lease can be terminated as well.
Will be terminated.
Now, a lot of people don't know that. And very soon, Dory Miller and Delaney will be shut down. Those were the only two places where the utilities were included in your rent. As for the other places, Concord, East Point, Miller Heights, you have to pay your utilities there. Section 8, many of them, you have to pay your utilities. So if suddenly you cannot afford to pay your utilities, and you may not be able to get help from Calumet Township or from the other emergency fund, and it gets shut off, and it's found out, DCFS can take your children, and your lease can be terminated. Well, that's my concern. And now you want to raise the rates some more. So now if you raise the rates some more, just like it was stated earlier, if the utilities are included in the rent, the landlord's going to raise your rent. If it's not, you're going to have to come up with more money to pay for it. And we're already trying to deal with the homeless population. Why add to it? And then you want to give the big businesses tax cuts, rate reductions? Most of the businesses here in this city are small businesses starting out. We have entrepreneurship programs here in this city on how to start your own business. And now you want to kind of put a wrench, squeeze on them a little bit more? No. No. The reduction for the big businesses is too high. And we need to go and let NIPSCO know it's too high. If you're trying to raise it for the small guy, then you know what? You need to reduce the amount you want to give to the big guy. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Palacio. I'm from Chicago, Indiana. I'm opposed to this rate hike. There's too many people that we might know and who we ourselves might have struggled with our NIPSCO bill at one time. There's too many people that I know that are struggling to pay their medical, their prescriptions, and they won't be paying their NIPSCO, therefore they could be shut off. They're struggling with food, they're struggling with jobs, and we need to stand up to these big corporations. And I believe together, if each one you go out and tell your friends about this, what's going to go on, I hope we can all get there to the meeting March 11th at Hammond High School and make a stance and stand up to this company and vote it down. Thanks again. Hope you're there.
Thank you. Seeing no one else, public portion is now closed. Let me just say I'm in full support of this, and it's not because it's the election year. I say that for several reasons. I work in housing, and I make money a lot of times when situations are unfortunate for others. And it's not a good situation when you're seeing families, you're seeing kids sitting in the dark. And a lot of times, it's like Ms. Johnson said, if your power is off at least 30 days, your lease can be terminated. And I just don't see how people pick up and move in 15 days once your lease has been terminated, or 30 days, unexpected, and you don't have plans to go nowhere else. But I see people living in the dark, trying to make it to get the money back up, to get their utilities turned back on. And it's a hard and it's a sad situation there. Does NIPSCO do a decent job inside the city? Now, I won't say it's all NIPSCO's fault with some of the things that's going on as far as the digging and putting the roads back, but there's subcontractors that we have to hold responsible, and we are doing just that. Now, NIPSCO is very responsible when we have lights out, but they have to know when the lights are out. They don't assume anything. They have to know. And I have seen a great response time in NIPSCO. I'm just going to give credit where credit is due. But I do not agree with NIPSCO shifting the burden back onto homeowners throughout this community here where we're already struggling. This takes us back to when the taxes, we went through the whole thing with the taxes, and NIPSCO got the big cuts, and we all felt the burden. We don't want to repeat history in this way with our utilities at the same time. And the least unfortunate will have to deal with it more so than us. So I do support it, not because it's election time, but it's the right thing to do for the people. Is there any other comments from council members?
I totally agree, Mr. Chair. Totally agree.
Thank you. Roll call, Madam Clerk. Can I have a motion move for passage at this time? Thank you.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Been moved properly second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Prothro?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 9-0.
Vote of 9-0. CPR 2019-04 has been adopted and so ordered.
Mr. President, that ends pending ordinances and resolutions on the second reading.
Thank you. We will go to the mayor for the mayor report at this time.
Well, good afternoon or good evening again. I'm going to try and make this a brief report. First, I want to express condolences to the families of Fred Lewis, and who is a retired firefighter. His daughter, Inga Lewis Shannon, is a judge pro tem at the Gary City Court, and his son, Chris, is also a city employee. To the family of Michael Gregory, who is a retired firefighter, and he was funeralized in Georgia. Some of our retired firefighters went down for those services. To Jerome Curran, who is a member, a fellow church member at Israel CME Church, and then to one of our Gary legends, also the uncle of Kendra Johnson, Mr. Willie Williams. He is a Gary native, state champion with track. He was also a coach, one of the fastest runners in the world, breaking Jesse Owens' Olympic record. A 1950 graduate of Roosevelt High School, and he will be funeralized this Saturday at the Ridgeline Funeral Home. Family hours at 10. The services are at 11. He also coached at Westside, and so we certainly want to extend our condolences. I believe I may have mentioned it last month, or during the last meeting, but in the event that I didn't, Ms. Mary Hurt is retiring from our zoning department after serving over 30 years in both zoning, code enforcement, and we would just like to thank her for her services, and we would
also, we will be giving her a public acknowledgement. I want to also report that on March 8th, this Friday, the sale of the Majestic Casino from one private entity, Wayzata Partners, to another private entity, Spectacle Entertainment, will be before the Gaming Commission. And I make a note that it is a sale from one private entity to another because a number of folks have asked about individuals who are involved in the group that is purchasing the casino. The city had no control over that because it is going from one private interest to another. That is controlled solely by the Gaming Commission. In the beginning, there was the ability for the city to make recommendations in terms of who would be a part of the ownership group. I do know that during the Barnes administration, there was an effort to ensure that there was a local participation in both of the licenses that they recommended. However, that was not done by the Indiana Gaming Commission, and there was some litigation around that. So I just want people to understand that while we are wholly supportive of this sale and wholly supportive of the move of the casino from Buffington Harbor to 8094, we also are supportive of both language that currently exists in the legislation that ensures that local residents will be able to do contracting and to work at the Buffington Harbor development, any development that comes out of Buffington Harbor, and that there is language in existing administrative code which requires local participation from businesses and as it relates to the casino. And there is a Gary First program already in place at Majestic Casino that we worked with them to ensure existed. So I just wanted residents to understand there, and any additional questions can be directed to me, and I would be glad to discuss that. We are also working to address what has been a very concerning uptick in homicides. You know, I listened to Ms. Flores' presentation, and I did not listen as a mayor as much as I did as a mother to a daughter. And so I think it's important that, you know, that we not only govern. I think governing is important, but I think that when you govern with compassion and when you put your self in other people's shoes, it really does impact the attention that you give. And I have to say to our chief and deputy chief that they have been in contact with not just this family in terms of the missing girls, and I don't want to put them in that category because we are still looking and still prayerful, as you have said. But I just want folks to understand that with crime, when crime occurs in this community, that we have a police department that is not only working with neighboring agencies and with other levels of law enforcement, but they care about what is happening, and we care. Every morning at 7 a.m. we have a call that is focused solely on crime and all of the related aspects of it. So I just want folks to understand that we are certainly concerned, and not only are concerned, but are doing something about it. I want to alert the public to 2 upcoming job opportunities tomorrow, March 6th. UPS will be having an employment fair for package handlers from 9 to 4 at Art House. And then on Friday, March 8th, from 10 to 2, again at Art House, there's going to be an Amazon hiring fair. And that focus is going to be on transportation, distribution, and logistics, while Amazon is the titled employer. Schneider Drive Co. and the 160 Driving Academy are also going to be participating. So we would encourage residents to come out to look at those opportunities. We also want all of our block clubs or those units or those individuals who function together like a block club to come together. And this is a partnership with the Urban League of Northwest Indiana, that we're acknowledging block clubs, that we are also providing kits to block clubs as a result of our grant from Cities of Service and as well as the Legacy Foundation. I want you also to stay tuned for a microloan program that will be done in partnership with First Financial Bank. That is going to be coming out of our Department of Commerce, and we're going to announce that on March, I believe it's March 21st. And I would say to you that our pothole efforts, there are 2 crews out every day. There were 2 crews out yesterday and today, even though it was bitterly cold. And, you know, I said this morning when I was on the radio, I wasn't a very good physics student, but now I get it because, you know, the polar vortex has wreaked havoc on all of our streets. And so they are out 8 hours a day. They're using cold patch, and many of you know that cold patch does not last as long as hot patch. We expect hot patch to be available at the beginning of April, but it is a marked difference with our streets because of the way that temperatures have gone up and down, and the water has expanded in those holes. You know, not trying to give you a physics lesson, but just telling you that this has been extraordinary. And so our General Service Department will continue to go out as long as weather permits. On the days that it's snowing, we won't be filling potholes. And I think that Councilwoman Rogers asked about Operation High Impact. During the winters, we are not doing high impact. We're focused on snow removal, cleanup of debris and any garbage, and then, of course, any trees that either fall down or that need to be cut down. Operation High Impact starts when the Blight Buster starts, and that will, this year, I think the President alluded to it, it will be April 27th. And in addition to that, we will have we have Blight Buster on April 27th. Oh, and I wanted to make sure that people were aware that on April 23rd, we'll be having our senior summit. So I wanted you all to know about both. So we are also dealing with the assessment of not only the NIPSCO lights, but the city lights. We are working on getting the contract together and funding that contract so that some of the metal poles which you see that are out can be addressed.
Any questions for the mayor, council members? Mayor, I know I have seen just recently in several locations, one of the brand new lights we just put up on Broadway, someone has hit that light and it's now down. And I just want to make sure that we're recovering all costs, if possible, through these traffic incidents that are happening. And also, I believe that's a 700 block of Grant Street. Someone also hit one of the city traffic lights there that's also down in those 2 locations there.
Yes, we are. Actually, part of the financial recovery program was to work on enhancing our recovery, and we've already gotten a check from that process. So not from those recent lights that are down. It hurts me especially to see those new lights down because they're beautiful lights, and I just, you have to really drive at in some kind of manner to get up on a curve and knock a light down.
Mr. President?
Councilwoman White.
I wanted to ask, Madam Mayor, the street lights on Lake Street have been out, and I talked to Public Works, and they got Midwestern Electric out there, but then they just went out again, and there was no, there was no accident or anything like that. So is there a way, is there some kind of short going on, or do we know?
Let me, because I do have a report from Public Works, and they may actually address that outage.
Because it's right on Lake Street,
Right.
It affects our small businesses.
She does not have it on here, but I will have someone go out tomorrow to see what the problem is, because they may have fixed it or thought they had fixed it, and it may have been something more extensive. So we'll get them back out.
Thank you.
Mr. President?
Councilwoman Rogers.
I would just like to add 21st and Martin Luther King Drive, same scenario where the company came out to fix it and now it's not working anymore.
Is that a street light or traffic light, Councilwoman?
It's a traffic light
Okay.
on 21st and Martin Luther King Drive.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mayor. Also want to send out condolences to former Officer Titwell, passed away. I just got notice of that.
Wow.
He's one of my classmate father that passed, so just saw that today. So I want to send out condolences to him. Councilwoman Wade.
Mr. President, in regards to the change in the committee meetings to a Wednesday versus on a Tuesday, which is the regularly scheduled day, with all due respect to Councilwoman Brown, normally when we change a date, we've historically had our committee meetings on Tuesdays. We normally give a reason why we're changing, like it's an election day or there was a, glitch with scheduling or something like that. And constituents have schedules, they work. We have the press here who regularly schedules for being here on Tuesdays. And I just believe that the public deserves a reason as to why we would schedule a committee meeting on a day that we routinely do not schedule a meeting on. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Councilwoman Brown.
Mr. President, the chair of the committee has the right to determine the date of their committee meeting. I have in the past always had committee meetings on Tuesday. As I said previously, that is not set in concrete. It's just something that I have done. The committee chair has the right to change that date, and you don't have to tell the world why you have to change the date. You could have had an emergency that happened on that Tuesday, so you have to have it another day. But there's no requirement that, it is not cast in stone like council meetings. The committee chair has the right to set the date for the meeting. So I changed the date because Tuesday was not convenient for me.
Mr. President.
That's my explanation.
Councilwoman White.
Thank you, Mr. President. In addition to constituents who may have plans, as a council member, I keep all of my Tuesdays clear, but, I have meetings on other evenings in the week too. So, but I always keep my Tuesdays clear so that I can attend the committee meetings. And while I'm not a committee member of finance, public safety, planning, or ways and means,
I do attend those meetings, and I appreciate that they're on Tuesdays, because that's when I clear my schedule for it.
Councilwoman Wyatt, you've been here for 2 years, right? We have changed,
3
we've had
years.
committee meetings on different days of the, we've had them on Fridays, Thursdays, because that Tuesday may not have been convenient. I have had meetings on Tuesday just because, but there is no requirement that they are held on Tuesday. And so if the date has to be changed, I'm sorry. But that is the prerogative of the chair of that committee to change that date. It is not the council meeting, it's a committee meeting. And it does not have to be on Tuesday. I apologize that if that messed up your schedule or whatever, but that is not a requirement.
Thank you. That is so true. It is the chair of the committee's objective to have the meetings on the day that's convenient for them. But when it comes to council scheduled meetings, I try and get a consensus of the council members if we have to change the day, and give you a reason why we have to change the day. But it is for the council chair, who is the chair of that committee, picks the day that they have your committee meetings. Okay. We have a few speakers. I didn't know if anyone was still here. I have quite a few that had signed up for the dog ordinance, and I think it was in detail of what took place here, so I don't. Okay, all right. I don't think I have no one on there. Okay, so I got 4 speakers for tonight. Ms. Johnson will be the first one. Mr. William Godwin, Ms. Geneva will be the third, and Mr. Nowacki will be our last speaker. So we have 4 speakers. Ms. Rose, I'll have you to go. Yes, I'm sorry. I know you didn't make it. I'll have you come up last, Ms. Rose. Okay? Ms. Nowacki, you be last. Ms. Johnson?
Good evening to the council, those present, those joining us by way of the media. My name is Kendra S. Johnson. I live in the 4th District. Thank you to the mayor for condolences concerning my uncle. And sadly, I was away at an education conference, Region 5 Title I training session, and I just got back. And it was a very intense training. From 8 o'clock, we had breakfast, 9 to 12, we had training, 12 o'clock, we had lunch, 1 to 4, we had training again, 5 o'clock was dinner, and then we had working session from 6 in the evening till midnight, every day, and we're still not finished. So now part 2 comes, and for me, part 2 is to see about renting the libraries. Some of you know last year we had an education and health expo at IUN, where we gave away uniform vouchers, bus passes, and 3 people received NIPSCO vouchers. We didn't advertise the NIPSCO vouchers. But in turn, those parents had to come and stay for workshops the whole day on how to be involved in your children's education. When people move to this city, they're looking for 4 things: safety, education, employment, and housing. And those are the things we have to concentrate on. To the family of the missing girls, I sympathize with you, and I'm angry too. I'm tired of seeing stuff like this going on in our community. I'm tired of people coming up missing, and we don't know what happened to them or where they are. And we need to take a stand. We talk about how great our city is and how great our people are. If you see anything, stand up and say something. You know what SNITCH stands for? Super Neighbor Involved to Catch Hoodlums. Now, thank you and have a good night.
That's pretty good.
It's hard to follow that. William Godwin of the 1st District. I want to just make a few comments. And one is to encourage us to remain positive about our city. It's easy to go on Nextdoor and some other venues, Facebook, and hear a ton of negative comments. And we know there are tremendous challenges, but I really want to applaud both the administration and the council for many of the great things that are happening. Every time I look around, there's a new job fair. Whether it's Amazon or UPS or all the great work that's happening in Indianapolis with the movement of the casino from Buffington Harbor to 8094. I know the council president has been down there. I'll be down there Thursday as a member of the Gary Port Authority. We have to keep pushing positive news about our area, because if we down where we live, how can we expect others, one, to move here, whether as residents or as new businesses? So let's just keep up the positive attitude. Secondly, as we are coming out of winter, it is so important that we remember our small businesses. We had an excellent First Friday in the Miller area this past week, where tons of businesses were open and restaurants had a great festive time. Come out on Lake Street and in other parts of the city to really support our businesses. Trust me, they need us to be there. And we have to recycle our dollars in our community. And lastly, to that point, I was very happy to attend services at Progressive Community Church, which is a national model in Emerson for green urbanism. And it's really a fantastic thing that my business neighbor, Anna's Kombucha Cafe, actually has partnered with that church in Emerson to actually serve the products that they develop right there in their fields next to the church. And that's just a great example about how we can all work together in different parts of the city to get things done and to make our neighborhoods and our city the kind of place that we can truly be proud of. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
Okay, we'll pass them on down. Let's give them, we'll pass them down. You need one? Okay. Do you need one? Okay.
Good evening, and I think I'd like to start off with, I guess I thank God and His mercy and His grace for me to be standing here. And first of all, I want to say thank you for the council members to allow me to speak. I've been trying to think about if I want to come down here and speak or not. Many people in the audience know me, but they don't know about me. I'm speaking because, and I want to thank the council president for what you said about domestic violence. I want to thank you for being brave enough to come out and talk about it. It's kind of interesting that when I was being abused, and it's kind of interesting because I was kind of small, and he was a boxer and a Marine, and he was a man in blue. And at that particular time, there was no protection. So when I look in the mirror every day, I look at the scar over my eye. When I look at my children, my two sons, all the time, I look at what it done to them. You know, it's interesting about an abuser, and people who don't know me, I've been a professional counselor for 30 years. I am working on a PhD in adult and human behavior. So I'm talking about a personal experience, and I'm talking about experience that I know about. A person that is an abuser is dangerous. They're extremely dangerous. The thing about it is, sometimes people think that they can change abusers, but you can't. They're very, very, it's only two things wrong with us. Either we have a physical problem or we have a mental problem. And it has to do with how we think. And I'm saying that I do a lot of counseling, but I don't counsel abusers. Because the only thing that I have found from my 30 years of experience that works for them is that a court system must impose some limits with mandatory counseling because they just don't change on their own. And so I'm just standing here to say that when people don't stand up to abusers, it affects the whole community. It affects the children. And when I was no longer there to abuse him, for him to abuse me or try to abuse me, so those of you know me, that I'm outspoken, and I thank God for being here, because I was so scared because of who he was and what he wore that I actually planned to kill him. I felt that was the only route out. After I had orders, talked to his person who was over him, I actually wrote in my Bible who to take care of my children. Because then when he could not abuse me, and my sons visit him, he started on them. So a lot of times people see me laughing, they see me, they don't, and crying, they don't really know who you are. But I'm here to say domestic violence is a real issue. And a person who abuses somebody has a problem. And I want to thank you for you all allowing me to say this. And I want to thank you, President Brooks, for doing what you did. And I want to commend you for stepping out. Because when he thought he could abuse me, he married somebody else. She hid it, and he abused her too. So I'm only saying that sometimes people don't know the stories. At the time when I was being abused, there was no protection, because if there had been something, he never would have got a chance to retire. He would have been locked up. Wait a minute, I'm not just saying, I'm not trying to make things bad, I'm just telling you like it is. And I'm just saying, just be aware. And I'm glad that you did what you do, because they're cunning. They took one face to the public and another face behind the door. And they're very dangerous people. So I'm just thanking you so much. A lot of you all know me, but you didn't know my story. You didn't know my story. So I'm here to tell my story, because it can happen to anybody, because I'm not stupid, I'm not dumb, and I'm educated. But at that particular time, I really felt, because of fear and no support, every place I went, I felt the only route was to kill him, because he told me I could not stay in this city. I'm just going to tell you how it is. And sometimes, some of us tend to support people doing wrong. We support people doing wrong because who they are and the position that they hold. We should be mindful that this city should not tolerate abuse and people being killed. I gave you that article because I'm sure that that was a situation that that lady now is dead. This is a very serious thing. And thank you so much for listening to me. And I'm just going to be on my way. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me just say, Mr. Nowacki, you can proceed to the mic, and I allowed extra time because I feel certain things need extra attention, and something of that magnitude is not easy to get up and talk about. And I'm happy even more that more people will come out of those situations that they are in, knowing that they do have a city that supports them, and they will not stay in those situations and let harm continue to take place to them. So I thank you, Mr. Nowacki.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. My name is Jim Nowacki. I live in the 2nd District. I hope you're all familiar with the recent Supreme Court ruling in Gunderson versus Indiana. This was a case that had rolled through local and federal and went all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. It was about a family that owned some property on Lake Michigan, and they didn't want people leaving their footprints on their beach and felt that they should not be walking on their beach. Well, the Supreme Court had other ideas and upheld national standards for riparian rights, and said the mean level of water is the high water mark. It determines where a landowner's property ends. This is important because the state is now taking some action. Senate Bill 581, called the Lake Michigan shore zone. And they want to preserve Lake Michigan as a public trust. In other words, they want to make sure that they take a section of land, the state enacts certain legislation, so that beaches are available for everyone to use. And this is a problem in our city because the city has taken recent action that is direct contradiction of the legislation being forwarded in the state legislature. We talked about the city wanting to sell Marquette Park, and we know that early in this administration they had transferred the property from the city of Gary to redevelopment. They never executed the deed, I think to this day. Well, now, coming up for public hearing on April 23rd, the Gary Department of Planning is planning to subdivide 20 of a 65-acre boundary. That's Park. So we're going to transfer 24 acres of Marquette Park to redevelopment, and there's no reason to do that. Actually, there's no reason to do it at all, but no reason to do it at all unless you're trying to sell it to someone. And we also know that when redevelopment sells property, the council has nothing to do. They could raise millions of dollars, and the council has like mutes, because it all stays at redevelopment and they can do whatever. They've actually got over $5 million in their non-reverting fund from when they sell parcels that you transfer to them and then never see the money. So we've got to stand up for riparian rights and rights of citizens to walk on the beach. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nowacki. Our last speaker is coming.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Rose Green Thomas, a resident of District 3 and here in Gary. And it gives me great pleasure to say that I'm a bearer of good news tonight.
Right.
And it gives me great honor to address our distinguished council members, the mayor and staff, and media attendees for an announcement of the 5th annual Celebrating Healthy Hearts Northwest Indiana Regional Health Fair, Scholarship Luncheon, and Recognition Program. This event is co-sponsored by yours truly as CEO of Black Women Physicians Institute, Service Club. She is to be and great recognition, wonderful job that she's doing in establishing health centers throughout the Northwest area. And we're looking forward to the opening this spring of a new center to be located at 35th and Martin Luther King Drive. So look for that great news. Back to Celebrating Healthy Hearts. This event will be held on Saturday, March 16th, here at the beautiful Genesis Convention Center from 10 o'clock a.m. until 12:30 p.m. We are going to have a recognition program to be recognized by the state and possibly some other areas of this country. And what is the reason for that? Our recognition program will be saluting over 40 Black women physicians who are serving in Northwest Indiana. That is a tremendous number of practitioners who have dedicated their service to urban and medically underserved areas such as ours. Also, I would like for you to know that this is an event for your enjoyment. We have a variety of health screening opportunities for you, a complete overview of heart health care, innovations, and research technologies. A diverse group of vendors who are there with products and services to serve your every need and desire. We also will have a social gathering of regional health advocates for a deluxe lunch and a chance to meet our scholarship recipients. And let me also add that our national role model for the Black Women's Institute is a graduate of Horseman High School who was valedictorian, who is now a cardiologist serving at Porter Regional Hospital. Isn't
Yes.
that is good news? That a program saluting our Black women physicians who have been so loyal and dedicated to a great mission to the health disparities that we face. So come out and this phenomenal occasion. Sponsorship still available, and we will have practically, I would say 150 or more people there. The general admission is $35 per person. So if you have any questions or you need further information, please telephone us at area code 219-616-3912. And I have information available for handouts for anyone who is interested this evening. I look forward to your joining us on March 16th. Thank you.
Thank you so much. President, Township Board. Yeah. I'd like for him to address
the resolution against the 18% NIPSCO rate hike. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's well needed. Also, send those letters to the Utility Regulatory Commission to fight against those increased rates. We had our last night in Griffith Town Hall for the Township Board. And it's probably something that we as a board should have done a long time ago, but we didn't. But we reversed that yesterday evening. We had a turnout. People know that the town of Griffith is trying to leave Calumet Township, but until that happens, they are still a part of the township. And I want to make sure that we in Cal Township, which includes the municipal city, the township, schools, can do everything that we can to make sure that one of the major problems and why they wanted to leave is one of the major problems that we face in the city of Gary. It is having a low assessed value of property in the city of Gary, which is one of the reasons why it's kind of difficult to bring business in there. And when we have a low assessed value, that means that it's difficult and unfairly people pay for what they shouldn't pay. This is one of the reasons why they wanted to go to St. John Township, where they wanted to go to Frank Mervan in North Township, because the assessed value in those communities are high, okay? And so it's three things I just briefly want to say, and I ask that the council look at for the rest of this year, that I believe, after talking with some financial folks, that may be not the specific, the only, but may be a contributing factor to low assessed value. Reason number one, we have 12 to 14 TIF, tax increment financing districts in the municipal city. TIFs take away from the property tax to lure business to come in, but the question is, and I think the council should ask our redevelopment commission, out of those 12 to 14 TIFs, how many of those TIFs have brought in significant development to help that assessed value go up? Number 2, tax abatements. I know we want to give tax abatements for people to come in and to invest, but when we give tax abatements, we got to make sure that the people that are recipients of the tax abatements are actually hiring people that live in the city of Gary. And we can continue to fund people's projects when they're not giving anything back. I just say this because I saw it in the newspaper, U.S. Steel needs to start paying. We can't continue to give them tax abatement after tax abatement. The last thing, properties in the city of Gary. I put a State Representative Reagan Hatcher and my State Senator Eddie Milne today, them to try to get ways to make people who own properties in the city of Gary, and they live in Dallas, New York, everywhere else, hoping to cash in on the expense of when Gary revitalizes, because it will, and they want to capitalize in and trying to now sell that property back to the city. Well, I think there's a way legislatively that we can talk to our legislators, and it may not happen this session because you specifically have to find legislation that's germane to what you're trying to attach to it. But if it doesn't happen this year, our legislators should be on notice that there should be something done that will allow us time. Number one, if you have a property that is dilapidated, burned out, you need to have some time to either rehab that property or either tear it down. If you can't do it in a certain amount of time, then the city should be able to tear that down and then send you a bill to make you pay for it. And if you don't want to pay, then we need to hook on like maybe a misdemeanor or something like that to let people know they come into our city, buy up all of this property on tax sale, and just leave them there for years, dilapidated. It doesn't make any sense. So again, the board, our trustee, we are willing to work with everybody, especially our other council persons, to put our head around this, because when our assessed value in Gary goes up, that problem in Griffith goes away. But like I told the folks in Griffith, we had a meeting here last night. It is nothing, and let me say this ebonically, it ain't nothing wrong with you coming to Gary every now and then to have a meeting in our city. But it's something that we should have done a long time ago, and we've done it. We had a great turnout, and I'm more than willing, Mr. Piggy, we are more than willing to wrap our heads around this, to meet with our legislators sometime later to figure out what kind of legislative plan we could come up together to figure out how we can help our assessed value go up. So when businesses come in here, it's not always for free. It's not always for this. And we got people outside of Gary coming in, taking a job, paying their property taxes in other communities. We can do this, and sometimes you just have to put your foot down, but there's a way you put your foot down. You get together strategically and work together as Gary. That means all of us working together, not being separated, but together, and we can make this happen. Thank you, Mr. President. God bless you guys, and whatever you need, we are standing with you. Amen? Amen.
He's a preacher. Seeing no one else, that was our last speaker for tonight. I thank everyone for coming out. Look forward to seeing everyone at our next council meeting. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment at this time. We're now adjourned. God bless you all.